report as presented to Kenyans, formatted and delivered, is an extremely complicated document. It is a very difficult document to read. And I have had to dissect it into 6 parts of a document for me to be able to understand it. I had to separate the annexures, separate the main report, separate the 12 pieces of proposed legislation and amendment bills. I also had to take the most important part, which is the constitutional amendments, and read them, but I have to read them alongside the current constitution in order to be able to cross-reference and understand what the constitution says now and what amendment is proposed. And in order to make it even easier to read and make sense out of it, I had to develop what I call an amendment navigator. This is the kind of professional work that we would have expected of the BBI task force. I would also have expected them to have had side notes to explain the mischief that is being cured by the amendment, so that we understand the basis upon which we arrived at the constitutional amendment. Now that I've demystified the BBI report and dissected it for you, I will now go on a step-by-step topical areas that Kenyans need to pay attention to and that I personally have challenges with. The BBI report proposes far-reaching changes in the manner in which electoral commissioners are appointed to office. It proposes a selection panel. That selection panel will be appointed by the president using a very vague criteria, leaving him with absolute power to decide who appoints commissioners. Remember that the IEBC amendment law has already removed the requirement of approval of commissioners by Parliament, and therefore the counter check that existed is now gone. The same selection panel has been given the power to revet the current IEBC commissioners, even though their term is not over and even though they had already been vetted. And therefore, it is completely amending Article 251, making sure that they can be able to remove commissioners illegally. Usually, to remove a commissioner from office, you should be able to set up a tribunal. But this is not the case under the BBI. So the mischief here is that the president, the ODM party leader, Raila Odinga, and the party leader of Jubilee will have absolute power to appoint commissioners who will oversee the elections in 2022. Why is it that this law is designed to leave the power of appointment of IEBC commissioners to the 2 people who proposed the BBI process in the first place without consulting Kenyans? It is therefore mischievous, and Kenyans should be very afraid. The BBI report proposes the election of members of the county assemblies rather than nominations in order to achieve the 2/3 gender principle. Currently, immediately after elections, nomination of MCAs to be able to meet the 2/3 gender principle is undertaken. The BBI report proposes it in this manner. And I'll use the example of Nairobi County so that one may be able to understand. Nairobi County has 85 wards. Assuming that Nairobi County elects 74 men and 11 women, it will mean that there is a shortfall of 26 women. The BBI report proposes that immediately after the general election, there shall be a subsequent election to elect women in order to meet the 2/3 gender principle. This is it is inefficient, it is expensive, and also it will mean that the county assemblies shall come to a standstill and not be able to operate immediately after the general elections as they wait for the subsequent elections. The BBI report does not inform us the manner in which the wards that the women shall be elected from shall be selected. It does not give us a criteria. It will also mean that instead of serving Kenyans immediately after elections, the county assemblies shall have to be at a standstill and wait for the subsequent elections to happen. That format or suggestion by BBI makes no sense to anyone at all. It is counterproductive, it is expensive, and it is only sowing seeds of total havoc and confusion at our counties after the election. The BBI report completely closed back on all the gains that the women of Kenya had been able to achieve in the 2010 Constitution. Under the current Constitution, the guaranteed women seats in the National Assembly is 53. Under the proposed BBI, there is only a guarantee of 35 seats. And therefore, the women of Kenya are losing, and they should not be fooled that there is any gains for women in the BBI report. There is also some other mischief. The proposal by BBI is to increase the number of nominated members of parliament from 12, as currently set in the Constitution, to 70. The worry that Kenyans should have is that, going by recent events at the Senate, where the nominated members of parliament, certain nominated members of the Senate, were forced to take a certain position and vote in favor of removing Susan Kihika, Senator Murkomen, and Senator Kindiki. Therefore, bringing in a huge number of nominated members of parliament into the National Assembly is to ensure that they can control the National Assembly. When they want approval of a person nominated to be Prime Minister, they then are guaranteed that they can control 70 signatures immediately for a start. And therefore, I do not see anything in the BBI report that is beneficial to the women of Kenya or is beneficial to the true representation of people, the people of Kenya at the National Assembly. Because we now know that nominated members do not truly represent their people, but are beholden to their party leaders. The BBI report is being presented to Kenyans as if it is one good document that is going to change positively the lives of Kenyans. But that is not true. There are two BBIs. There is the Mwana Siasa BBI and there is the Mwana Inchi BBI. The Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real BBI that is being fronted, is about creating the positions of Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, extra cabinet secretaries. It is also, the Mwana Siasa BBI is about having unilateral power over IEBC. It is about taking away the independence of the judiciary. That is the real BBI. The Mwana Inchi BBI, which they are trying to bring to the fore and use it to blind us, is the one that talks about a grace period for HELB loans for young people. It talks about tax holidays for young people and young businesses. It talks about prompt payment of persons who have delivered goods to the government. It's got the Health Commission, the Ward Development Fund. That is the Mwana Inchi BBI that they're trying to sell to us. But this Mwana Inchi BBI is, all those goodies in the Mwana Inchi BBI is intended to escort the Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real project and intention that they have. Remember that all those goodies in the Mwana Inchi BBI are capable of being implemented through legislative amendments, legislative changes, and administrative action by the government. Remember that when they set up BBI, did they require any constitutional amendment to bring BBI to the people? No. Did they have a constitutional amendment in order to be able to spend taxpayers' money to promote BBI? No. But why is it now to tell me that you want to give loans or money to youth to start businesses, you now require a constitutional amendment? It is important that Kenyans focus on the Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real intention. The Mwana Inchi BBI is only to blind us to be able to push their real agenda under the Mwana Siasa BBI.